Hi, everyone. Happy Monday again. It's amazing how that happens. Every Monday comes and goes. How's everyone doing today? If you guys have never met me before, hi, nice to meet you. My name is Deborah Lee Smith, and I am an actor and a filmmaker and a mental health advocate located in Los Angeles. And I'm really excited to be here to chat to you today. And we're going to talk all about tools and mental health resources. So please let me know how you're doing, where you're from, how you're feeling. Thumbs up, sideways thumbs, thumbs down. I'm a little both today, honestly. Hey, Elias. Elias is one of my regulars. Nice to see you. How you doing, Elias? And everyone else, how is it going on this Monday? My goodness, there's a lot happening right now in the world. No sound. Can't hear me? Hi, Lisa. Hi, Mac. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Give me a thumbs up, please. Going all right? Hi, Stephanie. You're feeling meh. Oh, good. Hi, Abigail. Yeah, everyone, I feel the same. I also feel a little meh, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Hi, Susan. Thanks, everyone. Okay, now I got it. We're good. We're all good. Yeah, I'm also feeling a little meh today. If you want to share how everyone is feeling, where you're joining me from. Terry, you have separation anxiety because of a move. Thank you for sharing that. If you want to elaborate, you are welcome to. Hi from Texas, Trisha. I'm actually headed to Texas next week. Hey, Leslie, you feel like complete shit. Yes, Leslie, thank you for speaking up to that. If you want to elaborate, feel free. If you don't, that's fine too. I'm also feeling a little just kind of meh today, and honestly a little shitty. So I'm right here with you. And one of the things that I want to talk about today is the things that we do, like our coping mechanisms when we're feeling really shitty, because I think that there's that right now, the way everything is, and how I think that things are going to continue to progress over the next month or so with COVID, with all sorts of things. I think that it's going to be I think it's going to be rough over the next month. And so that's what I'm here to check in with everyone and kind of like see how everyone's doing and see what we can do in order to discuss some great tools together. Because this is the thing, the fact that you guys have showed up today is amazing. That shows that you are committed to your mental health. You are committed to working on yourself and showing up for yourself and for the world. And that's really, really beautiful that you are showing up for yourself. So thank you. Thank you for showing up for yourself. Thank you for showing up for me. I say this every single time I have these lives, which is every other week, that every time I connect with you all, it makes me feel better. And it reminds me why I love talking about mental health. And so I so appreciate you all showing up for yourselves and also for me today. I think that's really important. Abigail, thank you for sharing that you're feeling a bit overwhelmed. You're taking a few minutes break from work and you're focusing on your mental health and you're worried about a procedure on Friday. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for expanding on your feelings. And it sounds like there's a few people who have commented about how they're feeling unwell right now. And, that's actually one thing I wanted to chat with you guys about as well, because I think that as our anxiety starts to heighten with, all of the extra COVID stuff that we've got going on in the future, I think that as our anxiety starts to heighten, that ends up putting stress on our body, and that ends up making us feel sick. either completely psychologically or physically actually ill. And I want to check in with you all today about that, because I think that sometimes we kind of forget about how much our emotions physically affect us. How much, if we're feeling stressed, if we're feeling sad, if we're feeling depressed, how much that actually will change our physical feelings about things. And I certainly know that I haven't been feeling the best. And sometimes when I go and I check in with the fact that, like, maybe I didn't exercise, maybe I didn't drink enough water, maybe I whatever, that maybe I can trace my icky feelings back to that. And sometimes not. Sometimes it is starting in my brain as far as like feeling depressed about something, and then it's showing up in my body. It goes both ways. And I think that it's really important to speak to that, and to speak to the fact that that happens, that this is a normal part of living. And Elias, you're saying that you feel sick or irritated with COVID, and I agree. I think that a lot of us are feeling like that right now, and I'm here to hold space for you and to say that whatever you're feeling is okay. And that's what I'm here for, is to chat to you all about that today. So thank you, everyone, for showing up today. Marta, you are speaking about how you have some anxiety, and you get PTSD when you have to go to the doctor, and you usually reschedule a few times before you actually go. I mean, I think the fact that you are speaking to that is really, really important. The fact that you are recognizing what your anxiety is tied to is really, really important, because that's really all we can do. I mean, there's that saying or that joke about the most important thing, if you're, gosh, I can't even remember what it is, but basically, like, the most important thing, if you are showing up for, for yourself, or if you're recognizing something about yourself, that's the first step in recovery. And I think that that's the same thing here. The fact that you are recognizing that this is something that troubles you is really, really valuable and really important. So thank you for speaking to that. I think that that's really, really wonderful. And Abigail, you say that you totally agree. You worry yourselves into sickness and feeling even worse than we would if we could distract ourselves from our worries. Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually kind of what I want to talk about today is what are the things that we can do when we are going in these spirals? Because if you guys haven't met me before, I have a mental health podcast, as well as a mental health website, where I talk about non-traditional mental health resources. And one of the things that I talked about actually on the episode that goes live today is the importance of purpose, and how me identifying my purpose is the number one thing that has helped me through my deepest mental health difficulties over the past few years. And every time I'm feeling like I'm really spiraling into something, I kind of try to take a step back and go, okay, where I've lost sight of my purpose, and what can I do today in order to focus on my purpose in some way. And so if you listen to that episode on the More Than You See podcast, and you can find it wherever you are looking for podcasts, you just type in More Than You See. And this is actually the season finale of season 2. So there's 24 episodes up there that I strongly recommend that you check out if it's at all interest to you, because I dive into a lot of different things. But again, the thing that I talk about today is the importance of purpose, and how oftentimes when I'm really feeling like I'm spiraling and not feeling like the positive person that I normally am, that I try to do something for someone else and try to realign myself with my purpose, and it does make me feel better. And so I would love to hear other people's comments as far as like, what are things that you do in order to, like, external focuses that you have that you can like put your attention on that will make you feel better in some capacity, that will kind of, not distract you, because it is so important to feel our feelings, both positive and negative. It's super important to just feel what we're feeling, but it's also sometimes important to kind of just like focus on something outside of ourselves and put our attention on that, because sometimes that's all we can do. Sometimes we can't control what's going on inside and what is affecting us. And we can choose like one thing that we're going to put our purpose behind and focus on that. And I find that is very, very helpful. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your experiences, and I'm going to address them as we go. As you guys can see, I really love interacting with you all in the comments, so I really appreciate you guys, showing up for yourselves and for me in this way. So Leslie, gosh, I'm so sorry. Leslie is one of my regulars here, and she shares that you are having some really bad chronic pain issues. You have severe medical conditions, traumas, many complex surgeries. You'll need more in September. Man, I'm so sorry, Leslie. That's just really, really difficult. And I think that, you showing up for yourself in this way is really, really important and really beautiful, because you do have a community here, and none of us can understand what you are going through, but we can empathize with you and send you, all of our prayers and well wishes and everything. And, please continue to check in with us as you approach that surgery, because we'll all be here thinking about you. And I love your cat. And I think that, I know I actually talk about on my podcast episode how important my dog is for me through my own mental health. And Leslie, you are welcome to vent as much as you want. So this is what we're here for. It's totally, totally okay. Calvin shares, I have crippling anxiety when I go out in public and see people. You have panic attacks, which at the time is uncontrollable. Thank you so much for speaking to that, Calvin. So I would ask you, if you do have any kind of breathing technique, if you have, done one of the most common tips or resources when it comes to having panic attacks is this idea of kind of like focusing on things that are outside of yourself, because it allows your body to kind of switch out of that panic mode and take in what's going around you. So oftentimes what people do is they will identify 3 things that they see, 3 things that they hear, 3 things that they smell, and if you're around something, 3 different things that you can touch. And by activating those other senses in your body, it really allows your brain to focus on other things besides the panic attack that's happening. So I'm curious if that's something that you've tried before, because I know that that's something that has helped me, especially when I have, I get pretty severe anxiety sometimes when it comes to acting stuff, because I'm an actor. And that's definitely something that I know has really helped me, is again, to just like focus your brain on other things besides what's going on. Because again, panic attacks is your brain thinking that you are in physical harm in some way. It is from us being, cave people and thinking that our body is protecting us from that saber-toothed tiger attack that's coming at us. And that's what that panic attack is. It's your body going, you're in danger. And so by focusing on these things outside of your body, it allows your body to go, okay, actually, I'm not in danger. Let me focus on that. And I think that could be potentially something that might help. George, a bit of meditation helps for you, not by distraction, but by being present. That's wonderful. I definitely understand the benefit of that for sure. Thank you for speaking to that. Yes. And okay, so Max says, that's what my therapist told me to do. I struggle with anxiety as well, finding one thing with each sense, or at least 1 or 2 things you can smell, hear, touch, or see. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely a big thing. And I think that it really helps. This is really cool. So Robin says that you use music and singing. That's awesome. I think that music is hugely important, and can really, again, kind of like takes ourselves outside of what's going on and allows us to to kind of like focus on just how we're feeling about things. I know that music really, sometimes I use music to help me to help kind of like soundtrack how I'm feeling. And sometimes I use music in order to distract myself from how I'm feeling. Like, if I'm like feeling really angry or something, then sometimes I'll put on Tool in order to like, feel angry with this music. And then sometimes I'm feeling angry and I'll put on show tunes because I want to distract myself. I think that music is such an amazing tool for that. Really, really awesome. Heather says, I tried to do meditation and focus on a positive thought for 17 seconds. I have generalized anxiety, stress, and normal life struggles, which can bring out your OCD intrusive thoughts, which you were diagnosed with after your first daughter was born 7 years ago. Thank you so much, Heather, for speaking to that and for sharing. Definitely, this idea of focusing on positive thoughts, this idea of gratitude is so incredibly important. And, gratitude, oftentimes researchers, when they study these things like gratitude, like positive thoughts, they're actually like, wiring up someone's brain and like looking at what lights up when you are feeling certain things. And when it comes to gratitude, when you are feeling gratitude about something, it activates the parts of your brain that are your pleasure centers. So it really like actually activates your brain to make you feel positive feelings. And that's why gratitude is so, very, very important. And that's the same thing as like the positive thought. Like if you focus on that positive thought, it activates those positive wires in your brain and allows you to like feel so much better in that way. So that's really, really important and really valuable. I love this. Michaela, I think that's how you say your name. I like to pet your cats and listen to your cats purr. The sound is stress relieving. Yes, absolutely. I understand that's the same thing with my dog. And I really feel that it's really valuable to to have this other being to care for. That's something that I talked about on my podcast episode today, is that idea about, having something else that relies on you in order to take care of. And that's where, again, that idea of purpose comes in, because sometimes your purpose in your day doesn't even have to be anything big. It doesn't have to be that you're, conquering the world or doing a good job at work or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be this grandiose thing. Sometimes we can just, focus on feeding ourselves, drinking water, sleeping, going for a walk or something. And your animal also has those same very general needs. And I think that that's why emotional support animals are so, so incredibly important for so many people, because it is really a wonderful way that you could kind of like put your attention on something else and focus on caring for something else. And that really allows you to like, again, have purpose in your life and have purpose in your day, which is so, so very important. Yes. Okay. So, Santiago, thank you so much. Music is a wonderful help in different moods, sadness, melancholy, happiness, fun. Thank you for the community sharing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you saying that and for being here. I think that is wonderful. And Leslie, you posted an example of a sensory video. Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. If you guys want to go back and see what we were talking about with Leslie before, and she has shared a resource for us, which I absolutely love. I love everyone interacting and, like helping each other. I think that that's really, really important. Okay, so we've got some conversations here about primal brains versus our primal brain versus our evolved brain. And so, the thing is that, like Alex is saying here, so we have, at our base level, our brains are all primal because we have been, we are evolved, people, humans, whatever, we are evolved, but we are still evolved from animals. And so because of that, we have these very primal brains, and that's where anxiety, that's where stress, that's where a lot of those feelings sometimes can take over how our body is feeling, because like our brain is taking over how our body is feeling, or vice versa. And that's because sometimes your body is like reacting to something based on like generational trauma or generational remembrances of things, and that kind of stuff. And so that's where your evolved brain is able to kind of take over and go. So basically, like your primal brain will send you into a panic attack spiral, and then your evolved brain will basically go, okay, let's look at what's happening here. And this is another thing that I have done before when there's, panic attacks, is this idea that, like, so let's say you're having a panic attack, you're anxious about something, it's either like because you're in public and that's causing you anxiety, whatever the thing is that's causing you anxiety, it's really important to remind your brain, because your primal brain is taking over. So it's really important to remind your brain that you aren't physically in danger. Now, if you are physically in danger, that's a different story. But in this instance, let's say that you're not physically in danger, you're just overwhelmed in the situation right there. And that's why it's really important to do that thing where you're like seeing things, smelling things, hearing things, or touch something. Remind yourself that you are safe, that you aren't being harmed, and that you are that this right here is physical. I'm tapping my desk below me right here. So like, for example, you touch something and you're like, this is a physical thing. I am a physical thing. And therefore, that just allows your evolved brain to like step in and go, oh, you're right, primal brain. Or you're incorrect, primal brain. Like, we're actually fine. Like, you can take a breath. Thank you for showing up for yourself, but it's okay and we're good. It's interesting because if anyone has ever done inner child work when it comes to like therapy or any of that kind of stuff, that's kind of a very similar idea, because like when it comes to inner child work, there's these ideas that there's all of these versions of yourself that's trapped within us, that are basically that are trapped within us at certain times in our lives. And for example, my parents got divorced when I was 5, and there was a lot of trauma, anxiety issues around that. So with my inner child work, one of the things that I've done is basically like thought of my 5-year-old self, and then thought of my adult self talking to my child self, as far as saying that everything's okay, my adult self can take over now, etc. And that's very similar as far as your primal brain and your evolved brain. It's just like reminding yourself that you're okay, and that that your evolved brain can take over now. So that's really, really important. Okay, so great. So we've got so many incredible comments here. So Becca, I love what you said here. You said, Becca, you say, my therapist told me an emotion lasts approximately for 40 minutes. It's not an absolute as I've timed it. You've written a list of go-to things that help calm you. It's helpful when your anxiety is so high you can't think of what I can do. I do have a few playlists that are preset so I don't have to think so hard about what I can do. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Becca. I would love if you wanted to share some of those go-to things that you do in order to calm yourself down. I think that that's really really important and valuable. So please go ahead and share some of those things if that's something that you would like. Okay, so Jason, thank you so much for speaking to the fact that you asked the question, how can you have a positive attitude when you go through hell, heck, every day? First of all, you can absolutely say hell. I am here for all of that. I mean, to be honest, I understand. I've had the last couple months have been really rough on me, to be honest. And it's really hard for me to have a positive attitude a lot of the times. because it seems like the struggles that I'm going through are never ending, and I just don't sometimes see an end in sight. And that's really difficult. I'm just being completely honest here. The things that I do in order to work through things is, number one, to remind myself that I've gone through tough things before. I will go through tough things again, and that is okay. One of the things that I've started listening to, there's a podcast right now called We Can Do Hard Things, and it's by Glennon Doyle, who is, really amazing. She's got a lot of books and stuff like that. And even just the idea of even just the concept of we can do hard things has been something that has been really helpful for me. And even the theme song of that podcast is helpful for me, because it just reminds myself that I'm not alone, that other people are also going through really hard things, and that all collectively as a society, we are all going through hard things, especially right now, especially when we are living through intense amounts of trauma because of COVID. I think that sometimes just because we have now come to the point where we've kind of accepted this level of living that we're all in right now, just because we've accepted it on some level, it doesn't mean that it's not affecting us, because it is. So please, first of all, give yourself space and recognition of the fact that you have showed up for yourself here, and that's really, really wonderful. And that there's other people who are also going through hard things and going through hell. And I'm really sorry that you're feeling like that. But I am too. And the other thing that other people have, we've had some really incredible people who are talking about, their suggestions for things. So we have one person, oh my goodness, I lost it. Someone said something about the importance of going for walks. That's definitely something that I do all the time is, and this is where my dog has been honestly a lifesaver, because for me, I have to walk my dog twice a day. And even if I'm feeling really, really shitty, even if I'm feeling just absolutely the worst. Yes. Thank you, Mohammed, for sharing that about your friend has anxiety and panic attacks. And so you go walking, which helps. Honestly, even if I always tell myself, because I basically do small little things. Like if I'm feeling like I can't do anything big today, I will start small and I will go, I'm going to go for a walk for 5 minutes. I'm going to go for a walk around the block once. And then once I get outside, I probably do a little bit more. Maybe I'll go for a walk for 15 minutes or something else. And oftentimes just being outside, being in fresh air, seeing people, noticing that the sky is blue and there's a pretty flower on the ground, whatever it is, those things are so incredibly valuable for me to kind of again, recognize those things going on in my greater space. And it allows me to focus on things outside of the emotions that I'm feeling, and really allows me to feel better. So, and if anyone else has suggestions of things that they do in order to, when they're going through hell, please, post them and I'll be sure to share them with everyone. Leslie says, another good podcast is Unfuck Your Brain. I have not listened to that, but I love that book, so I'm definitely going to listen to it. Thank you, Leslie, so much for sharing that. And Alex, I absolutely agree. This stream is great. It's good hearing that we're all on the same journey sometimes. I mean, I feel like every single time I come on here, I tell you all that this community and these conversations help get me through my weeks. And I know that I sound like a broken record, but this genuinely is how I feel. I genuinely love being able to come on here and share my struggles with you all and share my wins and losses and all of those sorts of things, because it reminds me that I'm not alone and that we are all in this mental health journey together, and that it's a journey. This is not just a one quick fix. This is something that we all will be working through, and having these ups and downs for our lives, because that's what it means to be human. And I think that it's really so important to feel like this and to speak up to ourselves. I'm so glad, Jason, that is that's helpful. You said that that you like this and that you can relate better than other podcasts. Thank you, Jason. And again, I'm shameless plug here, but I do think that I have some really incredible guests that I interview on the podcast, as well as talk about all of my struggles on the podcast. I'm very, very open about my own shit and my own hell. And so I absolutely care about you all. And so please check it out if that's something that resonates with you. Oh my goodness, so many amazing comments. Abigail, thank you again for showing up and sharing more of your journey. So Abigail says, you've also gone through hell, first amputation below the knee 7+ years ago. After trying all non-amputation options, you found your last medical team, now another one in 2022 above knee. Abigail, thank you so much for speaking to that and for, coming here and sharing your struggles. I know that you say further on there that you stay positive because you're happier that way, and because other people do have it worse. You have a house, a pet, and a car, and for now a job. You have a lot to be thankful for. Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you being, showing gratitude and showing up for yourself and saying all of these things. I think that it's also so important. This is something I remind myself on like a daily basis, is that I can hold space for being grateful for something and also still feeling shitty at the same time. Those two feelings do not have to be exist one at a time. You are allowed to be grateful and also sad about something. And I think that the greater problem is that when we start feeling shameful, or that when we start like putting personal shame on ourselves for not feeling gratitude. Yes, thank you, Leslie, so much. You're sending lots of love and support to Abigail, as we all are. I think that's really great. Oh, Abigail asked, what is my podcast name? It is More Than You See, is my podcast, just like my organization. And if you go to my Instagram, More Than You See, there's all sorts of different links to things and all that kind of stuff there. So go ahead and focus on that. And yes, thank you, Abigail, for saying that you're scared. You don't want the above the knee amputation, but you have to try and be happy. Absolutely. 100%. And I think that my point in saying that is just like, we can feel bad and good at the same time. Like that's the basics. And it's just so important to like acknowledge both of those sides of things and be like, it's okay that we're feeling both of those sides of things. So thank you. Okay. Let's see. Vicky, you had a question. Okay. I also don't know how anyone else feels when we're in quarantine. It seems your anxiety wasn't as bad once things started opening back up. You've now escaped to go to appointments instead of virtual appointments, and that brings on anxiety. Yes, absolutely, Vicky. I completely understand. I think that there's a lot of people that are feeling this right now as the world opens up, as things are like the thing is that no one completely knows what's happening. I think that like before COVID, we kind of had some stability in our lives, and we had some idea of like what our next 5 years was going to be about, like those old things where it's like, let's look at a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, or whatever. I feel like all of those plans are out the window now. And all we can do is kind of like focus in the now and do what we can to like get through the day, get through the week, etc. That's literally all that we can do. And I think that we are all feeling some kind of anxiety as we are getting back into the world, and we don't completely know what getting back into the world means. And there's been a lot of studies, the fact that like people who have any kind of mental health difficulties or depression, anxiety, any of those kind of things, one of the reasons for that is that our brains are like hyper reactive. They're more reactive than someone that maybe doesn't experience those same kinds of emotions. And so because of that reactivity, it also means that we often are more, we have more empathy for others, and we are absorbing other people's anxiety and feelings as well. So when we're in our quarantine bubble, we can kind of like build this safe space for ourselves as far as like our physical environment, our mental environment. We can kind of build it and like stay safe in that space. And now that we're going back out into the world again, all bets are off. And not only are we not completely sure how to approach different things, we are also absorbing other people's anxiety and other people's energies. And so I completely understand why you're feeling that way. I think the thing that we can do is to just be able to approach each task with an open mind and kind of just go, this, like, I'm going to the doctor's appointment, I'm going to do everything I possibly can in order to keep in order to keep myself safe, the people around me safe, and I am going to do whatever is the most comfortable for me, even if it does feel uncomfortable on some level. I'm going to do what I can in order to complete this task, and then I'm going to go back to my safe space. And I also think that it's important to kind of like build that environment safe space in someplace outside of your home. So maybe that's your car. Maybe your car can be your safe space right now. Or maybe it's maybe it's a playlist. Maybe it's a song playlist that makes you feel safe and happy and protected. And that is a playlist that you put on whenever you are feeling triggered and whenever you're feeling anxious, that you can put that on and remind yourself that you're doing everything you can to protect yourself and others, and that this playlist is going to get you through this task. Because again, that's all we can do right now, is to kind of like take tasks and just get through them as much as we can. Vicky says, you wish you were still doing virtual appointments. I understand that. I completely understand. My therapist is still virtual, and I am very grateful for that, because as much as I would love to have an in-person therapy session, it's just like one more physical interaction that I don't feel like I necessarily need. And so I think that I am recognizing your feelings on that, Vicky. And I think that, again, all you can do is kind of, show up for yourself as much as you can, and then go back to your safe space, because that's really all that we can do right now. Yes. Oh my goodness. So many comments. Yeah, so Mac, I love what you say here. Our feelings and suffering is valid and can coexist with gratitude. Again, going back to this idea of feeling, gratitude towards something, but also stressed about something at the same time. And I think that completely also has the same ideas behind, like, when we're going back out into the world. Like, if we have to go to an appointment, we can feel grateful for the fact that the world is opening up to the point where that's allowed, but also still feel scared and feel like apprehension around that. So again, you can feel both of those things, and that's perfectly okay. Leslie shares another resource here. She says, for those struggling with fear, here's another person that I listen to sometimes. She speaks fast and has a lot to say, but she makes a lot of sense. It's also helpful info if I can't achieve less fear, anxiety at the moment. Thank you, Leslie, so much for sharing. Leslie is one of my regulars, and you always have some really, really wonderful things to say. Becca, I love this. So your list, again, going back to what Becca was saying, as far as the fact that she mentioned the fact that there's 40 different, or that you can have an emotion for 40 minutes, and that sometimes she will go back to this list of things in order to like pull herself out of dark spaces. And so her list contains a song list, both feel-good songs and not feel-good songs. Sometimes you just have to be where you are, and have that happy feel-good music isn't always what you need. You grab a bag of crayons, you grab crayons and mark draw on your paper. You have a few hopeful TED Talks on your playlist. And when you're desperate, you use meditation. Of course, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad that this resonates with you. Becca, if you have any desire to share those TED Talks with me, I would love to put them up on the More Than You See website. That's one of the things, like this as well, is one of the things that I love. One of the reasons that I created More Than You See was because I also knew that sometimes those non-traditional mental health resources, like TED Talks, like songs, like whatever, were the things that helped pull me through more than anything else. And so that's why I compiled, books, podcasts, all of these things on the More Than You See website, because those are the things that really, sometimes I need to rely on those in order to pull me through dark spaces. And Mac asks, how often are these lives? And they are every other week. So every 2 weeks. So right now is the 9th. And let's see. So the next one will be the 23rd. And it's always at 1 o'clock on Mondays, unless there is some extenuating circumstances, so I can't be here. But yes, so Monday, the 23rd will be my next live, and I would love to see you guys there. And Vicky asks, is More Than You See on Facebook as well? Yes, it is. So you can definitely check us out there as well, on Facebook and on Instagram. So yes, thank you so much. So, okay, Alex, you asked about safety behaviors. And you ask if there's any specific safety behaviors that I use as a clutch. I don't necessarily. I think that there's, I think that that's definitely something you could talk to a therapist about. Again, so people who don't necessarily know what that means, it's basically sometimes when you are feeling, when you're feeling anxious about something, that sometimes you can avoid it. And so sometimes, I'm going to read a dictionary definition. So it says, safety behaviors are subtle actions used to avoid anxiety in social situations. For example, someone who's anxious about socializing at a party might focus on their phone to discourage others from approaching. Although safety behaviors provide some relief, they may make anxiety worse in the long run. And so that's where I think that it's so important. There's a really if you Google safety behaviors, there's a lot of really incredible worksheets that have examples to safety behaviors. The problem is that they can sometimes be negative, because they can become a crutch, and so it's not allowing you. It's avoiding your feelings about something instead of recognizing it and trying to work through it in some way. Although I do have to say that one of the things that my therapist says all the time is that you don't have to necessarily acknowledge a feeling and process it at the same time. So you could, this is where a safety behavior could be really important, because you could identify that you're feeling anxious, and then decide that you don't want to process that anxiety right now, and you're going to use a safety behavior in order to work through, or in order to not work through that anxiety. I would say the only thing that I would say that I do use in social situations, if I'm feeling, as an actor, I often go to industry events, and I go to things all of the time where where there's no one in this room that I know. And sometimes there'll be 500 people in a room. I don't know a single person. And the amount of anxiety that I feel, I'm getting anxious right now just thinking about that. The amount of anxiety that I feel walking into those rooms is huge. And I know that it is very important for me to try and make a good impression, meet people who are going to help my career and all of these things. And how am I supposed to do that when I'm feeling such a level of anxiety that I don't want to talk to anyone? So I certainly feel that. And one of the things that I have done in order to work through that is, if I enter a room and I immediately feel that overwhelming social anxiety, I will immediately find the bathroom, and kind of like beeline my way to the bathroom. I will look at myself in the mirror in the bathroom, kind of like make sure I like look okay, but also I will literally speak to myself and I'll be like, you only have to meet 3 people and then you can leave. 3 people and then you leave. And I stick to that. So because of that, it really reminds myself that this is like a finite amount of time, that I do not have to I'm not committing to being here for hours. I'm just saying you just need to meet 3 people. And I don't even like put extra rules on myself. These 3 people could literally be the bartender, a waiter that walks by that I say thank you and whatever, and then 1 person that I meet that's interesting. Like that could literally be my 3 people. And oftentimes, once I start talking to those people or start talking to people, then I actually do want to be there. And I do want to try and work my way through the crowd and etc. And sometimes I don't. Sometimes I meet those 3 people and I'm like, get me the hell out of here. I have zero desire to be here. I'm feeling so much anxiety. This is the worst thing in the world. And then I allow myself to leave. And it's really, again, it's taking away that pressure on myself. And it's taking away this idea of like shame, of being like, ooh, Deborah, you're supposed to do this. You're supposed to be here. And I just go, nope, you don't have to. The only rule that I make for myself is I have to meet 3 people and then I leave if I want to. So I'm so glad. It looks like a lot of people really resonated with that. And I'm so glad that that's something that helps you. Alex, do you have a safety behavior that works for you? I would love to know. Yes, and I'm so glad. So it looks like we've got several people who are going to put these lives on your work calendar so you can take a mental health break. With me, and that just makes me really, really happy. Thank you, Abigail, for being here. I think that it's really, again, as I said, like these lives are valuable to me as well. So I'm so glad that they're valuable to you. Benita, we're talking about, therapists again. So Benita says, I'm so excited to finally meet my therapist in person. I'm more comfortable being around those I know instead of new people. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that we're all kind of feeling like that right now. And that makes sense, especially again, being in the space where and you say 3 to 5 people has been your goal in large groups, even pre-pandemic. I completely understand. I also much prefer small groups. And I think that that's really valuable, and that's really important to know that about yourself. And I'm really excited that you're going to meet your therapist in person, because that will give you a new level of understanding and just like, you know what I'm saying? I can't think of words right now. But I'm really glad, and please check in with us and let us know how that went. And Mac says, you did something similar when you went to your company conference pre-pandemic that you were anxious about. You told yourself you would initiate a conversation with at least a few people and then left. Absolutely, Mac. I think that's wonderful. And I think that it's so valuable to be able to show up for yourself and be like, this is all I'm going to do. And that's okay. So congratulations on knowing your boundaries and sticking to them. I think that's super, super valuable and important. So the Mighty just posted the RSVP. So if you want to be notified whenever I go live, just go to that page and you will be notified. So again, obviously, my name is Deborah Lee Smith, and I will, my next live will be the 23rd. And that's so funny. Benita says that her first time that she's meeting her therapist in person is the 23rd. So you're just going to have all sorts of mental health goodness that day. And I absolutely love that. Alex, thank you for sharing this. So Alex says that their safety behavior is I bring a bottle of water when you're out and find anxiety gives you awful dry mouth and increased temperature, and sipping water tends to help you a lot. That is so awesome. And we've got a couple other people. George says, I'm the same. Something about a nice cold bottle of water that gives you relief. That's wonderful. And I think that, again, it's so important to remind ourselves that our anxiety is that our bodies and our minds are so closely related. So oftentimes, I'm sure that on a chemical level, when you're sipping that water, it's just like regulating your body a little bit and reminding yourself that like everything's okay, everything's functioning the way that it should. And so I'm sure that the like rhythmic sipping of the water is very helpful, but I'm sure on some level as well, just like getting hydrated to that next level, I'm sure also really helps. So that's a wonderful, wonderful suggestion. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's really wonderful. So this live is almost over. We've just got a few more minutes left. And I want to, thank you all again for being here with me today. As I've said before, like, seriously, you guys and like having conversations with you all constantly makes me feel better and better. Great question, Abigail. We'll leave it on this. So how do we stick with our boundaries when a manager or someone pushes past them? He always wants you to work more than 40 hours and you want to work 40 hours only. It's so stressful. Oh, Abigail, you're speaking my language. That's something that's really difficult for me to stick to as well, especially I know that for myself, because of the pandemic, I was working a lot more than I was previously. And so then now that the pandemic, well, we're definitely still in the pandemic, but now as things have changed and we're back to some other level of whatever, I've had to really like put in some new boundaries in order to kind of like, stick to what I was doing pre-pandemic. I would ask if there's an HR department or if there's, someone else with another level that you can talk to about this. I also wonder if you're in an office or you're not in an office, because something I know that has really helped me is even though I am maybe going to like say that I'm working, let's say they want me to work 45 hours a week, I will come back to them and say, you give me the tasks and I will do it in the time that that works for me. And so if I get it done in 40 hours, then that should be enough. And so I think there's a lot of like other elements at play there, as far as like if there's someone else who can support you and help you hold that boundary in some way, and maybe if there's some kind of bargaining that can be done as far as sticking to your boundaries and making sure that they are also getting what they need. But I do understand that like having that managerial person push against your boundaries can be really difficult. And thank you for showing up and speaking to that. And I really hope, again, please update me. Just for everyone to know, I am very active on the More Than You See Instagram. I'm also very active on my own Instagram, and I am always happy to share my experiences with others and to, connect with you all. So please follow More Than You See on Instagram, and I'll definitely, connect. So please let me know how it goes, Abigail. Oh, goodness. So Trisha, thank you. I am sorry that you didn't chime in that much today because you were feeling blah, but I'm so glad that you showed up for yourself and you showed up for everyone else. And thank you for being here. Leslie, thank you so much. You're truly a bright light. And you are a bright light as well. You, Leslie, are a bright light as well. Absolutely. And so Abigail, just on my final thing here, you've given me some more information here. So your company takes advantage of your workers because you're working from home. Yes, honestly, so Abigail, this is like exactly my issue on some different clients that I have. And I have really started to also, kind of, because I think that people, it's not about the hours, it's about the productivity. It's about people wanting to make sure that we are being productive and that we are getting our job done. And so if, yes, definitely, I definitely reprioritize, or I ask them to reprioritize my work. I constantly have a list. I have like a shared iCloud note of the list of things that like I'm working on for my company. And so, if they come back to me and give me more tasks, I will I will go back to that list and be like, which one of these things takes this over, because I cannot do all of these things on the list, and then they will reprioritize with me. And again, that's just about me setting the boundary and saying, like, I will give you the amount of time that I've devoted to giving you. But I will be as productive as possible, but I need help in order to, figure out how to do my job as the best of my ability. So yeah, great question, Abigail, to leave us on. And thank you so much. Again, that is my mental health organization, More Than You See. Make sure that you check it out. Make sure that you check out my podcast. As I said, that is the last, today is the last episode of the podcast for a couple months, but I will still be doing these lives, and there's 24 incredible episodes that I strongly recommend that you go and check out. So go ahead and listen to all those back episodes. Thank you, Vicki, for your kind words. I will see you all on the 23rd at 1 p.m. That is when the next time I will be here. I hope to connect with you guys in the meantime. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you all soon.